about the parable of the lost son in a way that your preachers have never told you. They hid the truth from you so that you would never understand the meaning of the parable of the lost son. So, what I want to do is, before I get started, I want to point out something first in Matthew 11 concerning the faith of the Canaanite woman, the Zidonian woman, the Lebanese woman. Verse 21, then Yehoshua went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Zidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O master, you son of David, my daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word. Why? Because he was a racist. That's right. He was a racist. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she cries after us too. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then she came and worshiped him. Yeah, she went and bowed down at his feet. I want you to remember that, because I'm getting to that in other scriptures. Saying, Master, help me. But he answered and said, it is not right to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. And now a racial slur. That's right. Yehoshua the Messiah then hurls a racial slur at this Zidonian woman, calling her a dog. And she said, you racist! Nope. No, she didn't. She said, truth, master. Yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table. She told the truth. And because she told the truth, Yehoshua, not Jesus, not Jesus, Yehoshua is his name, answered and said unto her, O woman, great is your faith. Be it unto you even as you will. And her daughter was made whole that very hour. Why? Because she was not offended by his derogatory remarks against her racial background, and because she spoke the truth. Now, so he told her that he was not sent unto but the lost sheep of the house of Israel. When did the Gentile thing begin to take place? And is it scriptural? Isaiah 50. Is it Isaiah 50? No, it's not Isaiah 50. It is Isaiah. Hold on. I'll find it. Isaiah 49. So Isaiah 49 describes the suffering servant. Okay. And it describes how Jehovah in the beginning kept him hidden. In spite of what the Christians want to claim that Jesus or Zeus or something like that, a false god was, as they say, the God of the Old Testament, that is absolutely not true. Yehoshua, the Father, was the one who spoke, was the one who acted, and the Son, the Messiah, was hidden away. Just like my own son was hidden away before he was conceived. Verse 49 of Isaiah, verse 1 of Isaiah 49, listen, O coastlands, and listen, you people from afar. Jehovah has made me from the womb. Wait a minute. Hold it. Beginning with the womb? This is not what your preacher says. From the bowels of my mother has he made mention of my name. His name was never mentioned until Gabriel told Miriam, the name of your son will be Yehoshua. That's not what your preacher says. And he has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand, which hand? His right hand. In the shadow of his right hand has he hidden him. And made me a polished shaft, his sword. So when it is written, I believe it's in Psalms, his right hand and his holy arm has won him victory. That sword that's in his right hand, that will be in his right hand, that is in his right hand, that's the Messiah. The sword is the Messiah. That's not what your preacher told you. He has hidden me and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver has he hid me. No, the Messiah never spoke to Moses. No, the Messiah did not speak to Abraham. But he was there hidden in his quiver, in Jehovah's quiver. Just as my own son was hidden in my quiver before he conceived. Okay? And you said unto me, he's saying, Jehovah said unto him, you are my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. So the Messiah is synonymous with Israel. You can't have one without the other, Gentile. Then I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for nothing. Daniel 9, verse 24, 25 talks about the Messiah will be cut off and he will have nothing. 25, 26. And in vain, yet surely my judgment is with Jehovah, not the Lord. Jehovah, and my mark with my Elohim. And now saith Jehovah, that formed the Messiah from the womb. That's when he began from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back to him. Though Israel not yet be gathered, yet I shall be glorious in the eyes of Jehovah, and my Elohim shall be my strength. So in the days that the suffering servant planted his feet on the ground after he was born from a woman, which is where his beginning started, Israel was not yet gathered and would not be yet gathered, exactly as it is written. Then Jehovah said in verse 5, it is a small thing that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Israel and restore the preserved of Israel, Jacob, and restore the preserved of Israel. Now, let me stop right here for a second. If the time when Yehoshua, the sword of Jehovah, walked as a man, walked as flesh and blood on the face of the earth, and at that time, it was not the time to gather Jacob. It says right here in verse 5, and now saith Jehovah that formed me from the womb to be his servant. So when he was the suffering servant, it says to bring Jacob again to him, though Israel not be gathered. Well, Israel was not gathered. When he was appointed to bring Jacob to him, Israel was not gathered. When then is Jacob going to be gathered? When he comes back again. This promise must be fulfilled. It's not fulfilled. This promise must be fulfilled. But then it says this. Yet I shall be glorious in the eyes of Jehovah, and my Elohim shall be my strength. And then Jehovah said, it is but a small thing that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Israel. It's not good enough. What you suffered, that is making the suffering light. I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles, that you may be my salvation unto the ends of the earth. Thus saith Jehovah Elohim. Jehovah is the Redeemer of Israel. And his Holy One, to whom man despises. You know that graven image that the Sunday keepers have up? That's not the image of the Messiah. That's the image of a false god. Because the people would never, today, when the devil rules the earth, would never worship, would never bow down to the Messiah. Kings shall see and arise. Princes will be forced to worship, because Jehovah that is faithful and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose you. And it says, verse 8, thus saith Jehovah, in an acceptable time have I heard you, and in the day of salvation have I helped you, and will preserve you, and give you the Messiah for a covenant. What covenant? The new covenant of the people, to establish the land and to cause to inherit the desolate heritage. Well, the desolate heritage, that's Israel, is it not? Therefore, he's speaking about the people of Israel, the land of Israel, etc. That you may say to the prisoners, who are the prisoners? Israel. Go forth, and to them that are in darkness, whose eyes have been darkened, Israel. Show yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and the passage shall be all in high places. They shall not hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat or sun smite on them. For he that has mercy on them shall lead them, and lead them even by the springs of water, and shall guide them. And I will make all my mountains a highway, and the highways all shall be exalted. Behold, these of Israel will be coming from far, from the north, from the west, and even from Sinim. What's Sinim? That's Far East. Well, there are plenty of Jews out there today, living in Hong Kong as sojourners in the land. Okay. Sing, O heavens, and be joyful, earth. But one thing I want you to notice. Now, other scripture says from the four winds, or south, east, and west. But this one, oddly enough, doesn't even mention south. It just mentions north from the west and from the land of Sinim, which is east. And of course, the majority, according to Jeremiah 3:18, is from the north, and Ephraim, according to Hosea 11, I believe it's verse 10, says from the west. Okay. Sing, O heavens, and be joyful, O earth, and break forth into singing, O mountains, for Jehovah has comforted his people and will have mercy upon his afflicted. Who are his afflicted? Israel. Now, I would strongly suggest that you read the rest of this article, because it says right here in verse 22, thus saith Jehovah Elohim, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentile, my flag to the people, and they shall bring your sons in their arms. Yes, the Gentiles are going to be said, you bring all my Israelites in your arms back to me. And your daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders, and the kings and the nursing fathers, and the queens your nursing mothers. And they shall bow down to you with their face toward the earth and lick up the dust of your feet. All right. I want you to remember that. Okay. Because if you read in Revelation 3, I believe you will find in verse 9, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say that they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before your feet to know that I have loved you. Who is he speaking to? Well, the church in Philadelphia, in the days when the churches were in Asia Minor, who the church of Philadelphia actually called the Messiah by his name, Yehoshua, and they did not worship at the altar of Zeus. They did not worship a fellow by the name of Jesus. So they will be inside Jerusalem with the rest of Israel when they're brought back. Oh, you think I'm kidding? You think? Let me show you something. Verse 8, I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door. That's the open door is in Jerusalem. And no man can shut it, for you have a little strength and have kept my word. And have what? Have not denied my name. Replacement names are a denial of his name. So yes, in those days, those people of Philadelphia, though they be Gentiles, will be inside Jerusalem with the rest of Israel. Okay? Now, it is time to go to Luke. Parable of the lost son. Or as it is written, the parable of the prodigal son. Now, before I go to the parable of the prodigal son, you must remember that as long as Yehoshua was alive, his feet planted on the earth, he was told that he could only go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. We just read that. So the parable of the lost sheep is about the lost house of Israel that are scattered across all the earth. We'll go to verse 1 of Luke 15. And they then drew near unto him all the publicans and sinners for to hear them, and the Pharisees and scribes murmured, saying, This man receives sinners and eats with them. And he spoke this a parable unto them. What man of you, having 100 sheep, and if he lose one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after them which is lost until he find them? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying unto them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I say unto you, likewise, joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repents over the 99 just persons which need to repent. Now, of course, this is in reference to Pharisees versus the tax collectors and so on and so forth, and the harlots among Israel, among the Jews. But now let's go to verse 11. And a certain man had 2 sons. And the younger of them saying to his father, Father, give me the portion of the goods that falls to me. And he divided unto them his living. What do you think this is about? I will continue to read. I'll give you a hint. This is only concerning Israel. And you should be, and knowing this now, you should be able to deduce what the parable of the lost son is about. Verse 13, and not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country. And there he wasted his substance with riotous living. And then when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in the land, then he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country. He became a Gentile. So you see, this is about the 10 tribes led by Ephraim, Ephraim being the younger son, the youngest tribe. Of course, Ephraim and Manasseh of Joseph, the younger son. He went and joined himself to a citizen of that country. He literally became a Gentile, and the prophets prove it. I'll show you in a minute. And he sent him into his fields to feed the swine. Unclean animals. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk which the swine did eat. And no man gave unto him. I'm going to discuss this here in just a few minutes here. And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven before you, and am no more worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. And when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran to the son, the younger son, and kissed him, fell on his neck and kissed him. And then the young son said unto his father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no more worthy to be called your son. I am the Gentile. Treat me like one. I am not your son. But the father said unto his servants, Bring forth the best robe and put it on him. You know that robe of Joseph? That one. And put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring here the fatted calf and kill it, and let us make merry and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, and they began to make merry. Now the older son was in the field, and he came and drew nigh to the house, and he heard the music and dancing, and he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said unto him, your brother is come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he received him safe and sound. And he was angry and would not go in. Therefore his father came out and entreated him. And he answered, saying to his father, lo, these many years do I serve you in Jerusalem, neither transgressed I at any time at your commandment, and yet you never gave me a kid that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as this your son was come and has devoured your living with harlots, you have killed for him the fatted calf. And he said unto him, son, you are forever with me, and all that I have is yours. Clearly, the older son is Judah. Clearly, the older son is Judah. It was necessary that we should make merry and be glad, for this your brother was dead, was a Gentile, and is now alive again, and was lost and is found. So this brother, the younger brother Ephraim, Joseph, will come back with his head down. Judah will be raised up. Ephraim, Joseph will come with their heads down, hungry, saying, we are Gentiles, not your son, not of the children of Israel. We just want to come and be your hired servants. And the father is going to say, put on him the robe of Joseph. Okay? Now I want to show you something. Verse 15, it says, he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country. That citizen later became Rome, the Gentiles. And where were these people sent? To the fields. And also to feed the swine. Now, I'm going to pull something up here for a second. I do every now and then bring up the FTDNA for a particular reason. Oh, this time is going to be for a particular reason, a special reason. If you'll just give me a second here, FTDNA. I should have had this pulled up already. But patience is a virtue, folks. Okay. If you go to FTDNA, ancient European origins. All right. Now, everybody has different origins, or some have similar origins. But we read in Luke 15 that these people, the prodigal son, the lost son, were sent into the fields to be farmers. Okay? So if you go to ftdna.com and you look up the ancient European origins, what do you have? You have the non-European. You have the hunter and the hunter-gatherer. You have the farmer. And you have the Middle Age invader. The Middle Age invaders were, it's not hard to understand this if you read Daniel 2 and if you read Daniel 7. It's very clear. Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold. The Medo-Persian Empire was the silver, metal, you see. The Grecian Empire was the brass, and the Roman Empire, the Europeans, was the iron. So, as I'm looking at my own, as it claims, to my ancient European origins, it only has 12% of the Metal Age invaders. The you see, but it has 47% farmer. Then it has 41% hunter and gatherer. Now, this section, the farmer, those are the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Those are Joseph. Those are the ones that is spoken of in Luke 15, where it says, verse 15, Luke 15:15, and he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and that citizen, Rome, sent him to his fields to feed the swine, the farmer. And there are other people, when they use this particular ancient European origins, will find that they are majority Middle Age invaders, or their background is. Those are the Romans, those are the Greeks, those are the Persians and the Babylonians, the Middle Age invader. So, there's something else I want to show you. You see, the lost house of Israel did become Gentiles. They were put away. I want to first go to now that I have done this one, I want to I'm getting bear with me, folks. I lost my train of thought. Oh, bill of divorcement. That's what I was looking for. Okay. We go to Jeremiah 3, verse 8. We did that the other day. Then after that, then we're going to go to Isaiah 50, and we're going to show what Jehovah is going to do to that bill of divorcement. Jeremiah 3, verse 8. I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorcement, yet her treacherous sister feared not, but went and played the harlot also. But he never gave Judah a bill of divorcement in the old days. Now, let's look at Isaiah 50 and see what it says about this bill of divorcement. Thus saith Jehovah, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away, or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Because of your iniquities have you sold yourselves. Sold yourself? What? Did you get that? Sold yourselves. To who? Didn't we just read about something like that in Luke 15? In verse 13, it says, and not many days after the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living, and when he had spent all, he had to sell himself. Hmm? And he joined himself to a citizen of that. Oh, and there, and after he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, in the Gentiles' land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and that citizen sent him into his fields to feed the swine. He was sold. He sold himself to the Gentiles and was forced to go work in the fields and feed the swine. And as I said, you can use whatever DNA website you want, and you can figure it out just by, in Europe, three or four classes of people, non-European, it's four classes of people, non-European, hunters, gatherers, middle-aged invaders, and farmers. If you're majority farmer, then your majority bloodline, your majority DNA is of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's not hard, is it? You just follow the scripture. Yes, he took his journey into a far country. And he ended up in Europe. And they were forced to be the farmers and the feeders of the swine, the peasant class. That's the reason why the majority of the peasant class left Europe and came to the United States of America. Because of hard bondage. Isaiah, let's see. Says, where is your mother's bill of divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of your creditors is it whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities have you sold yourself, and for your transgression is your mother put away. Wherefore, when I came, was there no man? When I called, was there none to answer? Is my hand shortened at all that it cannot redeem? Buy you back. Or have I no power to deliver? Look, I rebuke. I dry up the sea. I make the rivers a wilderness, and their fish stinks, because there is no water, and they die of thirst. I clothe the heavens with blackness, and I make sackcloth their covering. So now he goes and points out the suffering servant again. This is who he is going to send to go and get those who sold themselves, lost Israel, who became Gentiles. Not the Jews now. We're just talking about lost sheep of the house of Israel who sold themselves to the Romans, to the Europeans, and became the peasant class. Jehovah Elohim has given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary. Yeah, that guy. He wakes up morning by morning and he wakes my ear to hear as the learned. Jehovah Elohim has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious, neither did I turn away back. I gave my back to the smiters, and my cheeks to them that plucked off the hair. I hid not my face from shame and from spitting. Of course, this is talking about the suffering servant. What is the suffering servant supposed to do? We just read to go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the ones who were delivered a bill of divorcement and forced to be Gentiles. Not just the conversos among the Jews, but lost sheep of the house of Israel who joined the Gentile, beginning with the Assyrians and eventually the Romans a long, long time ago, and have no idea that they are of the house of Israel whatsoever, and worship the same gods as the Romans do today. Jesus. That's right. He's going after those too. For Jehovah Elohim will help me, therefore I shall not be confounded. Therefore I have set my face like a flint, and I know that I shall not be ashamed. He is near that justifies me. Who will contend with me? Let us stand together. Who is my adversary? Let him come near to me. Behold, Jehovah Elohim will help me. Who is he that shall condemn me? Look, they all wax old as a garment. The moth shall eat them up. And my goodness, are they being eaten up right now? The people who forced the lost sheep of Israel into the peasant class are now being eaten up by themselves. Now, so you see, this is talking about, once again, the suffering servant is who is going to be sent to save these people who were given a bill of divorcement, who were rejected, who left. And that's why when they come back, they're going to say to him, to the Father, they're going to say, in verse 18 of Luke 15, I will arise and go to my father and say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and am no more worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father, and when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. But the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no more worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, put it on him, and put a ring in his hand and shoes upon his feet, and bring forth the fatted calf and kill it, and let us make merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He is lost and is found, and they began to make merry. Now I want to go to something that Jacob said in Genesis 49. Something else that the lost house of Israel was going to have to do. They're going to have to serve Judah. You see, the script is going to be flipped. Back when Joseph was the one who his brothers despised, and nearly had him killed, driven away, Joseph's brothers had to come down and bow down at their feet. In fact, I'm going to go to that. I think it's in. We'll try Genesis 48. I want to get context here. Is it? I'll keep going back until I find it. Oh, here we go. Give me a minute. I'll figure this out. It's after Jacob died. That's what it is. Yes. I was going into 48 and 49 when I should be going into, uh, here we go. Verse 15. I need to make sure I use King James Version here. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said Joseph would peradventure hate us and will certainly requite us for all the evil we have done unto him. That they did to Joseph. Well, you see, the lost house of Israel today, being aligned with Rome, being aligned with Europe, are aligned against the Jews that are in Israel today and committing sins against their brother. And there's going to come a time when Joseph, the lost 10 tribes, are going to have to say this to Judah. And they sent a message unto Joseph, saying, your father did command before he died, saying, so shall you say unto Joseph, forgive, I pray you, the trespass of your brethren and their sin, for they did unto you evil. And now we pray you, forgive this trespass of the servants of the God of your father, of the Elohim of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brethren also went and fell down before him, before his face, and said, behold, we are your servants. We are not your brothers, but we are your servants. You see how but this is going to play out the opposite direction, because the lost 10 tribes aligned themselves with the Europeans, with Rome, with their false gods against the Jews. They did. And they're going to have to fall down on their faces before Judah and ask forgiveness and say, we are not your brothers, we are your servants. That's going to happen. That's what the story of the lost son is all about. But they will be forgiven because the Lion of the tribe of Judah, Yehoshua, covered them and their sins. Joseph said unto them, fear not, for am I in the place of Elohim, but as for you, you thought evil against me, but Jehovah meant it for good, to bring to pass as it is today, to save much people alive. Now that's a whole different story, but you get the gist of what the story of the prodigal son is all about. The lost son will have to say to the father, I am no more to be called your son, but one of the fellow servants. In other words, they're going to come and say, I am not equal to Judah. I am not equal to the Jews. Make me one of the hired servants. Right now, Roman Christianity tramples the Jews with their feet. And then not only are they going to have to bow down at the feet of, well, let's go look. Let's go look in Isaiah 60. Verse 14, the sons of them that afflicted you. He's talking to Jerusalem. The sons of those who afflicted you are going to come bowing down to you, Jerusalem. And all that despise you shall bow themselves at the soles of your feet. Once again, Genesis 49. You see, the lost sheep of the house of Israel sold themselves to the Romans. And they're going to have to bow down at the feet of Judah too. Verse 8, Judah, you are whom your brothers will eventually praise. Your hand will be in the neck of their enemies. You just wait, you Gentiles, you'll find out. And your father's children shall bow down before you. Now there, folks, is the real truth about the lost son, the truth that your preachers never told you.